Most people think choosing a motorcycle is a practical decision. Budget, seat height, maybe fuel economy. They'll walk into a dealership, look at a few options, and pick something that makes sense on paper. But here's what's actually happening underneath that process. Because research in consumer psychology consistently shows that the vehicles people choose, especially motorcycles, reveal something much deeper than preference. They reflect personality, emotional needs, risk tolerance, and even unresolved parts of identity that the buyer themselves couldn't always articulate. The bike you're drawn to isn't random, it's a mirror. So let's talk about the main categories. Not just what they are mechanically, but what kind of person genuinely thrives on each one, and why the match usually runs deeper than most riders admit. Start with cruisers. Harleys, Indians, the long, low machines built for straight roads and unhurried miles. The person who gravitates toward a cruiser is almost never in a hurry to prove anything. Psychologists who study identity and consumer behavior have noted that cruiser riders tend to prioritize experience over performance, atmosphere over speed, belonging over individuality. They want the ride to feel like something, the rumble, the weight, the unhurried movement through landscape. These are people who've usually done enough in life to stop needing external validation from how fast they can go. They want presence, not pace. And the community that surrounds cruiser culture, the group rides, the rallies, the shared identity, fills a social need that a lot of people in modern isolated life are quietly starving for. Sport bikes tell a completely different psychological story. The rider drawn to a sport bike is usually someone with a strong internal need for mastery and stimulation. Research in sensation-seeking behavior, a well-documented personality dimension, consistently links high sensation seekers to performance vehicles, extreme sports, and environments that demand full cognitive engagement. A sport bike rider isn't just riding, they're solving a constant physical and mental puzzle at speed. The lean angles, the braking points, the throttle precision, it requires everything. And for people whose daily life feels understimulating, whose desk job or routine existence leaves them chronically underloaded, that total demand becomes almost medicinal. The risk isn't the point. The complete presence is the point. Adventure bikes attract a genuinely distinct personality type, and it's one that behavioral science finds particularly interesting. The adventure rider is typically high in a trait psychologists call openness to experience, which correlates with curiosity, comfort with uncertainty, and a need for environments that feel unscripted. These are people who are quietly uncomfortable when life becomes too predictable, too controlled, too mapped out. The adventure bike, built equally for pavement and dirt, for highways and mountain passes, physically represents their internal relationship with life. They don't want the fastest route. They want the route that surprises them. Naked bikes and standards tend to attract riders who value honesty and directness in machines and often in people. No fairing, no pretense, no performance theater. Just the mechanical reality of the thing working exactly as it is. Riders who prefer naked bikes often describe themselves as people who are tired of unnecessary complexity, who want things and relationships and work to just be what they actually are. There's a psychological simplicity to that preference that usually runs pretty deep. And then there are the small displacement bikes, the 300s, the 400s, the lightweight machines that get dismissed constantly by people who confuse size with substance. The riders who genuinely choose these aren't settling. They're prioritizing something that larger bikes actually can't give them. Accessibility, maneuverability, the ability to use most of the bike most of the time instead of riding 10% of a machine that's too powerful to actually explore. Research on skill development consistently shows that mastery comes from operating at the edge of your capability, not well within it. Small bike riders, the intentional ones, often develop better fundamental skills than riders on machines that do most of the work for them. Here's the thing that ties all of this together. The bike that suits you isn't the one with the best specs, or the strongest reputation, or the most Instagram presence. It's the one that matches what you actually need from riding, not what you think you're supposed to want. The cruiser rider who buys a sport bike to impress people ends up selling it in 8 months. The adventure rider who buys a cruiser because it seemed more mature ends up restless on every straight road. The mismatch between personality and machine is one of the most common and most avoidable reasons riders quit. Know what you actually need. Because the right bike doesn't just fit your body, it fits who you are.